Is lecture number 10, and the title of our lecture on this course is Selection Criteria for Training Interpreters. And by the end of this lecture, you should be aware of the main criteria that institutions or institutes of translation and interpreting studies use to choose and select students who could or who have got the potential to become interpreters. And you will be able to identify the main traits, the main characteristics required for any student interested in becoming an interpreter. So you will see whether you could become an interpreter or not by the end of this lecture, inshallah. And then, of course, we need to practice some interpreting. What are the requirements if you want to be join an interpreting course in Britain, for instance? What they check? They have general requirements. They check your knowledge of what? Knowledge of languages and your knowledge of the world. How many languages do you speak? What is your knowledge of the world? How about your knowledge of history, geography, culture, religion? They ask you all sorts of questions to assess your knowledge, background knowledge, general knowledge. Number two, what they do, they look at your cognitive skills, whether you have the cognitive skills related to your ability to analyze material and the ability to focus on issues and the ability to remember, to retrieve information quickly and rigorously and efficiently. So these cognitive skills are very important for an interpreter. So these are the requirements. Then what they look for, they look for, let's say, personal traits. Personal traits are many. They would say, okay, can you work under stress? Or you just explode. You say, oh, I can't take it. I've had enough. Leave me alone. Can you? If you are not really patient and relaxed and cool, you cannot do interpreting, because sometimes you come under a lot of pressure, psychological pressure, social pressure, work environment pressure. So you need to be really able to cope with all these constraints. And regarding the intellectual curiosity, are you interested? Are you an extrovert or an introvert person? Are you willing to look for knowledge, meet people, be active, be social, and so on? All these traits are used, to differentiate between a candidate who is potentially good interpreter or not. So these are the general entry requirements. So before they accept you to do any course in interpreting, they check these three criteria in you: knowledge, the cognitive skills, and the personal traits. Okay? Now, another thing they look for. They look for, they find out about your writing abilities. your writing skills, especially skill, the acquisition of translation skills prior to interpreter training. So you need to really show some skills in writing. I mean, in English, for instance, if you want to become English Arabic English interpreter, you need to, before they accept you, they say to you, okay, can you write in English? Why? Because we need to know, so that we will see how much we can build in the program, because we know that you are doing interpreting, oral translation, but in the curriculum you are bound to do translation, written skills and related to translation. So they check on this as well, your language, your written language skills, So if you speaking, reading, writing, so they focus on your writing skills in English as a requirement for entry. If you say to them, look, I can write in English very well, my writing is, let's say, 6 out of 9 IELTS levels, then they would say, okay, as an entry requirement, you are fine, go in, and we will build on what you have got of writing skills. What they do as well, they give you aptitude tests for aptitude testing for training interpreters. And there are different types of tests used in institutions. Why? They use different types of tests to check what? To check your knowledge, to check your skills, and to check your personal qualities. But for interpreting, what happens in a traditional manner? They use they test you. They test you use holistic communicative tasks, such as they say, okay, we will use the following methods in testing whether you are whether you would become a good interpreter or not. Number one, they interview you. They interview like in bilingual or multilingual interview. You need to have an interview with them. If you need to speak to them in English and French. If you are studying multilingual interpreter, in other words, you have your A subject, your A language is Arabic, B English, C French. So in this case, you are a multilingual interpreter. But if you want to say, okay, I am a bilingual interpreter, English and Arabic, then they will hold an interview for you in these two languages or in these three languages. Another method of testing you is the impromptu speech production. They would say to you, okay, Ali, okay, Omar, speak to us, give us a speech, all of a sudden, about anything, probably. Or they might say, okay, speak to us about car production in Japan, or oil production in Saudi Arabia, or dates production in Saudi Arabia, or camels in Saudi Arabia, So you need to be able to talk about these topics all of a sudden impromptu means irtijali, you know, you just improvise. Or they might say, okay, this is the text, an oral summary rendition in another language. They say, okay, you have this text, can you summarize it in English? Can you summarize it in Arabic? They give you a text in English, they say to you, okay, give us a summary. So these are the procedures used in testing your aptitude. Aptitude means your what we say potential. It means aptitude means your inclination, your it means you may become an interpreter. If you pass these interviews or this aptitude test, then probably you will be a good candidate for to be trained to become an interpreter. So they check you. They hold an interview. They ask you to give an impromptu speech. They ask you to give a summary in another language. But what they say, people, they say this is subjective. This is not reliable. This is not valid, or it lacks validity. But these procedures are used now. They are used. And to be honest, they are very good, whether they are subjective or not. Now, if you can really speak to me in French or in English about oil production for 5 minutes, all of a sudden like this, it means good. If you can summarize a text in Arabic into English, then it's fine, So these are the procedures anyway. There is another type of procedure or another type of translation tasks used to select students to join interpreting studies, or to join a course on interpreters. Okay, now what they do, they give you written translation. You have to take a translation exam, like creative translation, or technical translation, or commercial translation, or scientific translation. So they give you a translation test, like translating, text types. They give you a text in English translated into Arabic, a text in Arabic translated into English. The second one, they give you sighted translation. Sighted translation means sight interpreting. You look at the text and you interpret. And they give you another, written summary. They say, okay, you have this text in English, summarize it in Arabic. You have this written text in Arabic, summarize it in English. So all these tests, all these 3 tests, seems to be written, Sight translation, a written text, but you need to, speak it out or interpret. Okay. Now we come to the personality traits. It seems the personality of the interpreter is quite important. It is quite important to make sure that the interpreter has certain characteristics not really found in any other profession. Not necessarily. Interpreters have their own characteristics, have their own personal traits, and one of them is motivation and learning style. He has to be really highly motivated. You need to love interpreting. Highly motivated, and your learning style, you cannot do memorizing. You cannot memorize, So you have to develop a deep learning style, quality learning style, student-centered learning style, you need to have an independent learning style. The second trait, or the second characteristics, is your ability. You have to be able to cope with physical as well as emotional stress. Physical and emotional stress. You might go under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress, whether it is physical or emotional. Physical, you might feel while you are really doing interpreting in this little room with the headphones on, and you feel like something grumbling in your tummy, or you feel like going to the loo or to the toilet. So what will you do? And it's really tough. It's not as simple as you think. Interpreting, especially if it is conference interpreting, and if it is simultaneous in front of, let's say, 300-400 people listening to you, and you make silly mistakes. So you need to be really able to cope with all this kind of pressure. Okay. You need to be able, number 3, you need to be able to understand quickly, grasp rapidly, and to convey the meaning of the spoken discourse. They are speaking quickly, understand what they are saying, and convey the meaning of what they are saying verbally, quickly. So you need to really be able to recall and find out error places. You need to. So they give you tests. They give you tests about, for instance, recalling information, close and error detection tests, and tests like where they test your fluency. Are you fluent, or you take a long time to speak? Are you fluent? Do you speak smoothly and fluently? Phrase after another. So these are very important traits. Personality traits means they have something to do with you as a person. Screening the procedure means 100 students apply to apply for an MA course where only 10 students are accepted. So they screen you. It means they say, okay, you are not suitable, we are sorry, we cannot accept you. You are suitable, we accept you. On what basis? They use 5 written tests for language proficiency and general knowledge. 5 written tests. So you have to take 5 written tests, a 5-part written test for language proficiency and general knowledge. You have to take a series of oral tests, written recall of a recorded passage, error detection, and side translation. Now, oral tests, it means you need to really be able to repeat, to recall a recorded message. They play the message, they play the tape, and you say, okay, can you repeat what he said or what she said? They give you side translation. So these are these are the procedures followed in screening you. Screening means, either you are fit or you are not fit to join the course. Okay, now we come to the to interpret some exercises here, and and it says France has continued to launch air strikes against Islamist rebels in Mali as plans to deploy African troops gathered pace on Tuesday. استمرت فرنسا بشن الغارات الجوية على المتمردين الإسلاميين في مالي وبينما تضاعفت جهود نشر القوات الأفريقية on Tuesday في يوم الثلاثاء. Residents of the besieged town of Del Bali sought shelter inside their homes after a night of bombing aimed at dislodging the insurgents who seized the town on Monday. سكان مدينة دلبي المحاصرة لجأوا إلى داخل بيوتهم بعد ليلة من القصف الموجه بعد من القصف الجوي الذي على من أجل إخراج المتمردين الذين استولوا على المدينة يوم الاثنين. This is very quick interpreting, and you can always improve on interpreting. Interpret the following into English. Again, I don't want to really read the Arabic. I'll do cite a translation. An Arab Muslim man called Omar traveled to Los Angeles, a town in the United States, to work. He rented a room in one of these luxury hotels to stay overnight there. Sometimes he went out for fresh air, and he used to go out to the public parks, and sometimes he went to where Muslim educated Muslim gather, those who live there. One day, number two, one day he felt bored, and he couldn't take loneliness any longer in his small room. Nobody talks to him. Nobody knocks at his door. So he decided to go out for a fresh air and meet people who he could enjoy talking to. Number three, while he was walking tall, proud of him being an Arab and being a Muslim, he saw two men fighting and shouting in the middle of the street, and nobody around them was really intervening to separate them from each other. So here Omar, came, driven by his courage, though he didn't know English very much, but he managed to speak to them. But while he was advising them, one of them hit him and continued fighting. At that moment, Omar said, "Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil." And then the story continues. I would like to continue the story and see what the rest of it. Now this is practical English. Interpret the following into Arabic, and then interpret this into English. Now this is lecture 10, and I hope that you have understood it, and I hope that my voice now is clear, and I wish you all the best, and work hard, and depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything will be alright for you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.